settle in wherever you are, that spot in your home where you have found yourself, and then just gently allow your eyes to close. Allow your body to just relax, almost like you are intentionally going from the top of your head through your jaw and your shoulders and your back and your hips and your knees, and you're telling the spots, it's time to relax. Sometimes we have to physically take the tension out of our body because we get so used to carrying it. So just give yourself permission for these few minutes. Let the body relax. You're still going to keep the spine long and help the breath just travel up and down the midline of you. But all those spots that have carried things all day long, give them time to restore. And let's start to breathe gently and with intention together. So a nice, slow, deep breath in, and a big, full breath out. And a nice, slow, deep breath in, and a big, full breath out. A couple more like that. Breathe it in and release. And one. And exhale. And then just notice those spots that you have to tell to relax. When you go back to the breath and you're intentional about it, the body begins to respond. It's like it's just waiting for us to give permission. And the best way we can do that is through the breath. So as you continue to breathe nice and slowly and gently, I just want to say happy Spring Equinox 2023. The last few times we've been together, I've been anticipating this and talking about what's coming. But this is the day that we had the same amount of sunlight as we had darkness. It's this perfect day in nature. It only comes twice a year, each time signaling a new season. And for those of us here in the South in Texas, it signifies that summer is coming and the days are going to be long, giving us light into the evenings. And it just makes you feel good. And so as the spring equinox comes, it represents more than just the arrival of spring. It really is about the clearing out, the letting go, and the planting of new. We do it in our gardens and our yards. We do it in all kinds of places in our home as we clean out the cobwebs and the dust of the winter, and we open the windows and get ready for spring. But in our meditation practice, it reminds us that we have to do it in our lives as well. And so I want to go back to an example I've used before, but I want to use it in a different way tonight. It's the story of the young Native American boy with his grandfather. And they're talking about some of the violence that they're seeing out in their community. And the grandson's really not understanding why people act the way that they do. And the grandfather says, we all have these two wolves inside of us. One wolf is really aggressive and really strong, and the other wolf is soft and gentle and compassionate. And the young boy asks his grandfather, I don't understand. How does that have to do with what we're seeing in our world? What does it have to do with me? And the grandfather says, whichever wolf you feed will be the one that shows the way of your future. And so I've used that analogy in different ways over the years, but today on this spring equinox, I'd like to look at it a different way, because we do have competing forces inside of us. But today it's not so much about the aggressive side and the soft, compassionate side, but rather it's about the side of us that has a really hard time letting go. A really hard time turning loose of things that we know are not good for us anymore. A really hard time letting go of pain and trauma and sorrow. Because no matter how awful they are, they're familiar. And it's really hard to imagine letting them go. And so that's one of the competing forces within all of us. But then there's this other side of us, like those two wolves. And it's the side that looks out in the morning with anticipation of a new day, of possibilities, of growth and abundance and development. It's the side of us that looks forward to change because we know we're going to learn something and we're going to grow from it. So those two sides exist within all of us. And so kind of like that grandfather said to his grandson about those two wolves, my question to us tonight on this day of the spring equinox, this day of balance, is which one of those sides, which one of those forces are you going to nourish? Are you going to keep giving energy and attention to the side of you that's a little bit afraid to let go? Or are you going to give energy and compassion and permission to the side that wants to anticipate new possibilities in life? It's not always about big drastic changes, but it is about as we develop on this path and we show up to meditation, we're growing. But every one of us has things that are holding us back. Some things from last week, some of us have things from decades ago. We have voices in our head. We have mindsets and patterns that have been established. And again, even though they're not good, they're familiar. And there's comfort in that. And even though we know we want to look ahead to possibilities and we want to look at additional growth for ourselves, it's unknown and it's unfamiliar, which makes it a little bit scary. So I ask us tonight, and I'm asking myself at the same time, which side of us do we want to nourish as the seasons are changing right here before our eyes today? And we keep showing up. We keep meditating. We keep moving our bodies with intention. We keep trying to find connection between our mind, our body, and our spirit. So for doing all those things, I think we can assume that the side that we want to nurture is the side that looks forward to the new and to the growth, not the side that wants to hold on to the stuff that's keeping us back. So I'd like for each of us, in our own space, but then collectively, just the power of the collective, just to sit with that thought, just for the next couple of minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll kind of reframe it again, but let's just sit in the quiet. And this is not about judging ourselves. It is not about criticizing or feeling guilty or ashamed of the stuff we've held on to. Because I sit before you as someone who still has things that she needs to release. But every day, my commitment gets a little bit bigger and my resolve gets a little bit stronger. And when I see the sunrise and I see the new day, I know that's what I want. I don't want the darkness of the past. I don't want the trauma of the experiences that I've already lived. They've already had their turn. So with no guilt, no shame, no judgment, let's just each sit in our space. Try to keep your mind right here in the present moment and just see what patterns arise. Just notice, just for the next couple of minutes. Let's just continue to sit with our eyes closed, breathing with a relaxed, settled body. And I want to take this idea of those two wolves and bring it into our world today. Many of you know how much I love to garden and how much I love to have my hands in the dirt. And so the idea of the two competing wolves doesn't always have the most meaning for me. I get it, and the message is clear. But sometimes we need an example that is more connected to who we are. So I want to share my example that I'm trying to live with myself, and maybe it will help to inspire an example for you as we close out this day of the equinox. So I love to garden. I love to plant vegetables. I get excited when the little flower blooms and you go out a few days later and it's turned into something. And then you forget what you've planted there and it's a surprise to see what's going to grow. So as I got the garden ready and began to think about planting for this year, I had this thought of how these two wolves look in my life. You know, I still had some stuff left over from the winter, some things that had died away, and I kind of left them there thinking I'd pull them out and put them in the compost bin. But then I started to think, what if I had these two garden beds, and in one of them I left all the dead stuff from the winter, the terrible looking tomato plants that no longer produce fruit, all the withered vines, and then in the other garden bed I had my fresh, green, healthy plants. And then I walk out each day with my water hose. Which one do I water? And it seems so illogical to think that I would water a garden bed that has dead plants in it. Not plants that just need to be revived, but truly plants that died in the winter and they're not coming back to life. They've already served their purpose and now they're done. It seems illogical that I would water that bed. Instead, I should focus all of my energy in pulling the weeds and checking on the insects and giving the nourishment to the one that has the new life, the possibilities for the new vegetables for the season. And so as I thought about it just a couple weeks ago, and as I was tilling up all the stuff, I thought, these are my two wolves. That's the analogy that works in my heart, because I would never go out and water the dead stuff. I want to spend my time and my energy growing the new stuff, the stuff that's filled with life. And so for me, that garden bed of the dead stuff from the winter represents some trauma that I've lived through over the last few years and that I'm slowly pulling further and further away from. I wish I could tell you that as I planted the new plants this time, all that other stuff was gone. It's not. But it's a little more gone now than it was before. So I tell you that with just the idea and the hope that you will come up with some kind of a metaphor or some kind of an example to help you remember, which part of me do I want to nourish? And if the two wolves work, then you stay with that. But just think about the things in our life that have already had their time. They don't have a purpose anymore. So why are we giving them energy and attention? I would propose that we deserve something much better. I want to be the girl who waters the plants that are showing life and potential and growth and abundance. And I want to do that in my life as well. And my wish for you is that you will do the same. Namaste.